Ciao, 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 ciao. We're back at Mugello, this wonderful, wonderful circuit. And as you can probably tell by the noise, we're here to test the heavily revised Aprilia RSV4 1100 factory. Hi.
Is that your pocket coming through your jeans there?
Yeah, it is.
Is that style?
It's style, yeah, that's what the kids are wearing these days.
Like Bros.
So, RSV4 1100 factory and Mugello. I mean, it doesn't really get much better than that.
Yeah, I'm pretty jealous. You definitely won the soggy biscuits.
I did.
And I was soggy in Estoril.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, it's that bike, that was the perfect track for that bike. The RSV4 has always been the closest thing to world superbike for the masses. That yes, it's old, yes, it looks old, but that core base, V4 engine, and that chassis is just sublime.
Yeah, I mean, if we rewind 9 months to Jerez, was that last year?
Yes.
So we had that against the Panigale V4S, and even though it didn't feel as fast, it was over a second quicker, wasn't it?
Well, nearly a second quicker.
Nearly a second quicker.
Yeah. So that's in its old guys with 100cc less.
Exactly. So now it's up to the 1100 of the V4 Ducati.
Well, it's not even that, it's 1078. But it's getting on that bike, it feels like an Aprilia. Everything's exactly the same. You know, is
the dash the same?
The dash is slightly different in that it responds to light and it's slightly brighter and more dynamic.
Okay.
But yeah, everything's pretty much the same. But there's nothing wrong with that dash anyway. It's
really, it's nice.
Triggers.
Does it still flash at you like everything's going mental?
Yeah. So first session, and I tell you what, it took me, this is no exaggeration, it took me a good couple of laps to get used to that bike, in that engine now, I was pulling gears and it was hitting the limiter every time, because there's less, the red line is lower because of the extra cc, but you've got all that torque in the mid-range. So it pulls out of corners now, and you can use, rather than using second gear for turn one, you could use third.
Really?
Yeah. Or you could even get away with fourth. There's so much torque.
Wow.
So much mid-range.
Because the RF, well, I think we agree that everywhere it was sublime, but it just didn't have that poke.
No, it didn't have that extra sort of hit, did it?
No.
No.
So now it's taken it up a level.
Exactly.
But moved the range of where it comes in.
The range is much wider.
Okay. And
you get that, the lethargy's gone. You get that instant hit, and it's... Okay. And I think a lot of people agreed on that launch that it has to be one of the best engines ever built.
Wow.
And even though it's that old, it's just a bit of cheating, a few cc's extra. You know, that's the thing, conforming with racing regulations, manufacturers are sort of, or have been, bound by these racing regs, but now they're just going, you know what?
Well, we've had this argument a few times on camera, haven't you?
Yeah.
Haven't we? And it's my philosophy as well. It should be open to do what you want. There will be a limit. You know, if you put a 1600cc engine in it, there's going to be a limit to how it's going to affect the performance in the corners and weight and all that stuff. So I think you should just let people go for it.
An open class, superchargers, everything. Yeah. Yeah. It's what MotoGP should be, really. So it's been 10 years since the launch of the original RSV4. And to mark that occasion, we've now got the RSV4 1100 factory. And what a beauty it is. Now, Aprilia claim this is the best, not only the best RSV4 ever, but the best superbike ever. And that is a bold claim indeed. But judging by the predecessors, I've always been a bit of a fanboy of the previous RSV4s. They've been some of the best track bikes ever built. And judging by this one, here at Mugello, one of the best circuits in the world, let alone Europe, we're going to see what it's like. So, what have they done? Well, as you can probably tell by the name, it's gone up. It's now 1078cc. We've got the pistons from the Tuono, the 81mm bore and pistons from the Tuono. We've got longer 5th and 6th gears. We've got a revised Morelli ECU and mapping. I won't bore you with all the changes, but that's the crux of it, basically. So in terms of the chassis, and this is the thing that really impressed me, the chassis, yes, the highlights are the winglets and the 1100cc motor, the 1078 motor, but the thing that really impressed me is the chassis. Again, I won't bore you with all the intricate changes, but basically what they've probably have done is rammed it against the wall. They've made the steering angle shorter, the steering head angle shorter. The swing arm is now stiffer to give better acceleration, and the brakes. Now let's get on to them brakes. The internet was alight with all those comments about the air scoops, and it is factory looking. It is an accessory, you do have to buy them, but apparently, and this is again another big claim, it's 25% cooler. Those styling calipers, which were originally reserved for the Ducati Panigale, are now made their way on the Aprilia. Those calipers are now 25% cooler, which is a massive, massive difference. And also, while we're on the brakes, the brake lever travel. So normally, you get to the end of a session, especially it's quite hot there, 22 degrees. When you get to the end of a session and you're doing 200 miles an hour into that first corner, you've been doing 20 minutes, the lever tends to get a little bit of a travel and you get further and further back to the lever, back to the bar. Well, Aprilia reckon it's 25% less movement. So again, another bold claim, but having just ridden 4 sessions out there, I didn't have one moment of brake fade. And so the headlines then, the culmination of all those engine changes bring 217 horsepower, which is a massive 16 more than the old bike. Of course, we got cubes to thank for that. In terms of the weight, it's lost 5 kilos, so dry is now 177 kilos, 199 kilos curb. And the price, 21.5 grand for this bike. Yes, I know, look, a lot could have been done with the styling. It still looks identical to the bike that 10 years ago, but 21.5 grand for a bike that will lap faster than the Ducati V4R, take my money.
So I'll tell you what, why don't you take us through a lap in your head?
Okay, that's a good idea. Yeah.
So launching out of pit lane, does it have launch control and all
that? It does, it has all those toys, yeah.
Yeah.
And while we're on that, I mean, there's one thing this bike is still lacking. And that's after we've both ridden the S1000RR, the new one. The electronics are still not quite there. They're still, although it has revised calibration for the extra power and the weight and everything else, they're still racy, and it's still, as soon as the tyre goes, that electronic, that TC isn't going to catch the high side.
Right.
It's quite snappy and quite aggressive, and yeah, it's certainly not quite up there. So yeah, anyway.
Okay.
Let's go. So down the start finish straight, I clocked on the dash. This is 320 kilometers an hour.
So what's that in?
Nearly 200.
Wow.
It is fast.
Wow.
It is. I mean, the thing with Mugello is, as you know, there's not much sort of sense of speed.
No, it's very wide, isn't it?
It's very wide, and even the start straight, it's a bit of assault on the senses, really, because there's so much going on. There's colours and curbs and everything, grandstands flashing.
And everyone wants to do that bit that you see in the GP where they nibble the pit lane bit.
I did that. Yeah. Because you have to.
Of course you do.
You have to.
Yeah.
Just to look good, really.
Start it out.
Yeah. But it does set you up perfectly for breaking into turn 1.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, it's got the new Stilima calipers.
Okay.
And those, obviously, the scoops, the air scoops.
Yeah. Would that help with braking?
Well, it cools.
Okay, so with the ducts.
The ducts, sorry, yeah.
Okay, I thought you were talking about the wings.
No.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Aprilia claim there's a certain amount of downforce, kilograms in downforce added at, 300 odd kilometers an hour.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm not going to sit here and say I felt it, because I'm not. But it didn't wheelie. It didn't wheelie as much.
Yeah.
So
that's why they're there, isn't
exactly.
it? To stop wheelies.
Yeah. But yeah, going back to brakes, this is one of the. I mean, there's no fade. There's no nothing. There's loads of power, and of course, when you're braking from nearly 200 miles an hour to 50 for turn 1, there. You're going to need good brakes.
Yeah, and I remember the RF, you could literally go full on brakes all the way, pretty much up to the apex, and then just
exactly,
off you go.
It has to be one of the best bikes from braking to apex. It just feels so natural and fluid.
And that's the same as the RF, pretty much?
It's the same, but the braking is much better.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how it could be much better, but it is so much better. Yeah.
Stilima.
And as you know, into turn one, on the side of the tyre, there's not many bikes that feel as good at big lean as this puppy.
Okay, but I do remember last year when we were on the test, the sort of edge grip didn't feel the front was still perfect, but the rear, so mid corner edge grip is
so that's what I was going to get to. So going from braking to mid corner at full lean off the throttle, there's nothing that feels any better, absolutely nothing at all. So then up the hill, that's when you're going,
because it's a bit off cambery there, isn't it?
So it's not, so up there, that's the first time you're at, and you go, oh, you want to wind it on, but the connection to the rear wheel and the ground and the throttle connection it's nice throttle connection, but you don't get that sense of security like you do with a lot of bikes.
I'm ready.
Exactly.
Okay, so up the little squirt up the hill, then you've got a left right.
Now this is where it's lost 5 kilos, but it still feels quite cumbersome.
Right. Okay.
You know, it's not one of those bikes. It's not like a super sharp sort of Fireblade or a S1000RR.
Yeah.
It's still quite a cumbersome bike, but that makes it so good once it's on the side of the tyre. It feels so secure and solid. Okay. So you do have to wrestle it a bit to get it through those flip flaps. Okay. And again, down, out the chicane, down, you've got another left, right.
Yeah.
Exactly the same. But you could really, really punish the front end. It's just shouting for abuse. It really is. It was so good through there. But again, picking the bike up, you get the run down the hill towards Arrabbiata.
Yeah, this is a bum twitcher, isn't it?
This is a proper bum twitcher. But again, as long as you're not on the throttle and asking for more power, this bike just laughs at you. It just going, come on, mate, you can go another 10 mile an hour through there.
And you weren't on slicks though, were you?
No, we were on SC1s.
Okay, so that is the race tyre.
It is a race tyre, but kind of
halfway house.
It's a race tyre, but it was quite hot, and after sort of 4 or 5 laps, the rear grip was shot.
Well, that's what you get with 200 whatever brake horsepower bikes these days, isn't it? I mean, it's going to handle a lot of abuse. They're not going to take that much abuse.
No.
But anyway, so into
Arrabbiata.
It's a lovely pasta dish.
It's lovely. My mum makes a great arrabbiata.
She does, yeah. I was around there the other night.
Sorry, Mum.
I'm not.
Again, it hasn't got new suspension or anything, but it didn't. The bumps there are quite nerving.
And it's not electric, is it?
No.
Standard OEM Öhlins.
Yeah. Again, brilliant through there. Really easy to sort of drive. I mean, as I said before, there's so much power. There's everywhere. I mean, you could go. I was going through holding 3rd gear, but you could hold 4th gear or even 5th gear and still pull out of the corner.
Wow.
So over the hill, down to that horrible right-left chicane.
That's a hot downhill braking. Comes up very quick, doesn't it?
It does, because it literally. And talk of which, so because it was the day after the Aprilia All-Stars event, so they had Max Biaggi, they had all the little Aprilia riders there, all the old bikes. There was a few sort of leftovers that day after, and Max Biaggi was taking someone on pillion on the Tuono, and I came over the hill, and on the apex, onto the right, you know how fast it comes up, was Max Biaggi with a pillion on an outlap. I went, oof, I'm going to hit him. I
would have absolutely loved it if you took out Max Biaggi. Not because I hate Max Biaggi, just because it would be like...
I mean, think of the views.
It would make the press, wouldn't it?
Think of the views. Actually, that's a good point, actually, because we were in Mugello, we weren't allowed helmet cams.
Which is when we got rogered on the BBB last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so down into Biaggi, and then you got the horrible exit of that. Is pretty nasty as well. And then you got the nice little downhill, and then to a lovely double apex sweeping right.
Again, I mean, the bike just screams at you.
Yeah, that to me, that's almost where I'd imagine that bike performing better than anyone else.
Incredible. And again, I was going through
because you lean on the front there quite a lot to get it in.
Yeah, and even when you're on the side of the tyre, you're not asking for lots of power, but you're on the side of the tyre with a constant throttle,
just waiting,
and it's just going, come on, mate, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But yeah, sublime through there. That, like you were right, that corner epitomises what that bike is all about.
And then obviously square up, little fast chicane, isn't it? Left, right.
That was probably the change of direction. It got a little bit flighty now and again
at that speed. Yeah.
And that wasn't to do obviously the wings. That was
well, the faster you go, the more gyroscopic. I don't think it is gyroscopic forces, but the more forces are wanting to keep the bike upright.
Exactly. Yeah. And it is, you can tell its age. There's a bit of instability, and obviously you're driving on the right hand side of the tyre. I had a little bit of a whoop out of the seat moment, even when the traction control was on sort of 2 or 3. So, but yeah, I mean,
you should try riding a 1078 MV Agusta through that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. But then, nice, hard onto the brakes. Again, I think that from what you're telling me, that's another nice corner for that bike. And use the drive, because then it's full beans, absolutely on it. Nibble a bit of the pit lane entry as well, and off you go up the straight. Yeah.
And this is where, initially, that first lap, I was so surprised because the engine revs so quickly, and through the gear, even if you're in third and pulling the gear, it just whap, whap, whap. So you're sort of chucking gears at it. And thankfully, I was sharing a bike with an Italian dude, and he had it in race shift, which is perfect through there because you don't have to get your foot underneath it. You can just tap down.
Okay, but mechanically altered.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that takes minutes.
Okay.
Oh, seconds, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the standard equipment.
Yes.
Nice.
And then down that straight, and you're just going, fuck! I'm struggling to think, apart from the S1000RR, which again we'll get to, of another rival, because it's been that much improved.
And it's hard to improve on it, let's face it, because the only thing that really was lacking was power.
Yeah.
Even though on paper it was still a very powerful bike, it just didn't have that. It was the combination of electronics and its brain working out when it lets you have the power, which is the difference between the S1000, because the electronics are ridiculously good.
Yeah.
So I think that's the top test this year, isn't it? It's got to be.
Definitely.
RSV4 factory versus S1000RR. And
I mean, the engine is that's the highlight. The engine is without doubt the USP of that bike, as the title says, 1100 factory. But the chassis improvements, just the little tweaks, they've got rid of some of the sluggishness, and I think they are, for me, just as impressive as the engine.
Okay, so the things that are going to matter to people.
Yeah.
We've established that it's bloody good.
Oh yeah.
It's 21-ish thousand.
Yeah, just over 21 grand. Yeah.
So that's quite a lot of pocket money.
It is. Yeah.
It's an Aprilia.
Yeah.
Now, nothing to do with reliability, but just the nature of how they operate and where the dealers are, the servicing. That's going to affect things.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot of people
Which is a shame.
It is a real shame, but it's you have to go from the top down, and Aprilia really is a tiny little company. Although it's owned by Piaggio, it's still a tiny company with a tiny factory, and the output is small, and that sort of filters down to the dealers. And like I said, not a lot of people know where their nearest, or would know where their nearest Aprilia dealer is.
I've got no idea.
No. I know where mine is, but yeah, that's 50%.
But you're cool. It's probably in like a scooter shop in West London or something, isn't it?
Probably. Yeah.
Okay, so but generally, if you can test ride one, go and do it. Do you think on the road it's going to be a good road bike?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah?
The extra power and just the mid-range and just how much more usable it is will transfer onto the road.
Okay.
And you'll notice more, rather than doing 10 tenths and chasing tenths all the time on a track, you'll notice more the sort of the way that it's being rammed up against the wall and the sharper steering. And you will definitely notice that on the track, I think, over on the road rather than track.
Okay. Well, I'm super jealous, and I can't wait to get one and test it.